This is Dash Parr, and many of you may know him as the oldest son of Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible. And although Dash thinks it's great that he inherited superpowers as he has super speed, he still wishes that he had an opportunity to use it in the way that he wants to.
Maybe I could if you'd let me go out for sports. You always say, do your best, but you don't really mean it. Why can't I do the best that I can do?
So today I will be putting Dash into College Football 26. Let's see how great he can be if his parents let him play football as we follow him on his road to glory. Now Dash grew up in the hills of Westview, where his dad, Mr. Incredible, spent a lot of time teaching him how to play football. But unfortunately, it took a lot to convince his mom to let him play in the first place.
Then let him actually compete. Let him go out for sports.
I will not be made the enemy here. You know why we can't do that.
Because it'd be great!
Eventually, Dash would get the opportunity to play football in middle school, and it would not be long before he would prove to be one of the fastest players on the field. The coaches didn't even realize how fast he really was, but they definitely did know that he was a special athlete. Dash throughout middle school literally did not even get touched a single time. He ran by every single defense, and by the time that he was a freshman, he would start getting some major offers from Division I schools. But unfortunately, his mom thought this was too much, so he had to reassure her that going forward, he will only be the best by a little.
I promise I'll slow up. I'll only be the best by a tiny bit.
Eventually, by his sophomore season, Dash was nationally ranked as a 3-star recruit. But it looked like that was going to change soon, because at some point people realized that Dash was the fastest player in all of high school football. This kid was so fast that sometimes he had to let up right before the goal line to make it seem like he didn't have superpower. Soon though, Dash would be heading into his junior season, and he would be getting more offers from around the country. And this is actually around the time where he hit a little bit of a growth spurt and went from 5'5" to 5'9". So now Dash is a little bit taller, and he is still damn near going untouched to the end zone. There was nobody who was going to catch him if he broke into the secondary, and that's exactly why by his senior season, Dash Parr was a 5-star recruit. He had offers from pretty much every school in the country, because despite being only 5'9", there were many coaches who saw a lot of potential in him. And soon, it would be time for Dash to figure out what coach he wanted to play for. His top 3 colleges ended up being Louisville, USC, and Wisconsin. But it turns out that for Dash Parr's college decision, he would ultimately not sign with USC, because he was going to take his talents to Louisville and sign with the Cardinals. And now that Dash is here with Louisville, he has to pick a new number. But this coaching staff actually reserved a specific number for him, as he will take number 1. The coaches feel like Dash Parr might be the future of the program. For now though, despite the fact that Dash was looking pretty much untouchable at practice, he was heading into his first season of college football as the backup running back. The coaches let him know that he'll get some opportunities here and there, but they definitely trust their number 1 guy. So Dash is looking forward to any chances he gets to help his team win in their first game against Charlotte. Now Dash Parr is making his college football debut here in the second quarter. On the second down to 12, he would take his first carry of his career and zoom upfield for a big first down. Dash knows he definitely could have scored a touchdown right there, but he didn't want to go too crazy quite yet. The coaches ended up taking him out though till the third quarter, where they brought him back in for another chance at a handoff. And it turns out that on this play, Dash decided to take off on this defense. This kid just cruised to the end zone for his first touchdown of his college football career. And it turns out that wouldn't even be the only one that he would get today, because the coaches brought him back in the fourth quarter at the 1, where he was easily able to cross over the goal line for his second score of the game. Dash is having a great college football debut, and it looks like he did enough to help his team get their first win of the season. Louisville starts the year 1-0 in dominant fashion, and it was led by amazing performances from really both their running backs, as their starter ended up going for over 200 yards. But it turns out this game would actually cause Keywan Brown to have a little bit of an attitude, because he ended up texting Dash and telling him that he better not even think about taking his job. And I'm not gonna lie, all that really did was just make Dash mad. So he made it his goal to try a little bit harder and actually take his job soon. But unfortunately, he would not get an opportunity quite yet, as he was not getting any playing time in their next game. Luckily, their team did go on to win, but Dash knew that heading into their next matchup, he was going to let the coaches know exactly why he should be the starter. And he was going to prove to the coaches that he was one of, if not the fastest players in all of college football. Now Dash would come out here in the first quarter backed up on his own 3-yard line, but on this screen pass, he would come up with a nice play that allowed his team to get out to the 24-yard line. Now he wouldn't come back in until the end of the second quarter, but at this point his team is down by 6. So when the coaches told him to go out there at wide receiver, he knew that this was a chance for him to get open, as he just glides past his defender and comes up with the catch for the touchdown. Dash comes up with a huge play on 3rd down and long, as he makes a play that helps his team take control of this game. And he wasn't even done there in the second quarter, because his team would get the ball back after a turnover, and Dash would again take advantage with another catch for a touchdown. Dash is back in the end zone for the second time on the day, and now his team has all the momentum on their side, because by the time Dash gets back in, they have a 14-6 lead in the 4th quarter. Bringing us to a 1st down and 10 where Dash got wide open in the flat before saying hey and zoomed upfield as it looked like he was off to the races. This man Dash just snatched this dude's ankles and was up out of there. He makes a play that gives his team a commanding lead in the 4th quarter, and ultimately that was enough to get Louisville their 2nd win of the season. Dash Parr didn't even have a single carry on the day, but yet he was still the player of the game. He scored 3 receiving touchdowns and almost went for 200 yards, doing enough to earn him the opportunity to move up as the starting halfback. Dash Parr's talents were undeniable, as the coaches knew that this kid was special, and ultimately he would be promoted to the starter. This is something Dash had been waiting for his whole life, man. He just wanted to be great at a sport, and now he would get the chance to, because now heading into his next game, he will officially be the starter, and it will be in a tough matchup as Louisville is at home against Georgia. Now Dash Parr had this offense moving on their opening drive with a couple big carries, but the team did get pushed to a 3rd down and goal where they did get stopped and had to settle for 3. Bringing us to the second quarter with this game tied at 3, where Dash decided that it was time for him to swerve around this defense as he was getting past the secondary and heading to the end zone for a touchdown. Dash Parr just torched this entire defense with a huge carry, helping his team take the 10-3 lead before Georgia ties it back up. But now Dash is already back to making some big play, and damn, he looked like Mr. Incredible right there. Eventually though, Louisville would come to a 1st down and 10 where Dash did not get great blocks, but they were good enough for him to zoom around and make his way to the end zone for his 2nd touchdown of the day, and even Dash cannot believe that he is doing this. This kid is frying up the 8th ranked team in the nation. And it turns out that he would not be done there, as his team had a 17-13 lead, and Dash was still going crazy on the Bulldogs. He got his team into field goal range on a 3rd down and goal where they unfortunately got stopped, but it turns out that Georgia wasn't able to get much of anything going on offense throughout the rest of this game, and Louisville would find a way to come up with the upset victory. The Cardinals finished this one off 20-13, and they were led by Dash Parr's incredible performance, going for 269 yards with 2 touchdowns. This kid looked unstoppable at times, and even though he was pretty short, he was still able to run past everybody. And it's actually at this point where he was starting to get a lot more attention, as he was not only earning himself an Offensive Player of the Week, but he also earned his first ever NIL deal. So Dash is definitely feeling good moving forward into the season, and he's hoping that he can help his team stay undefeated as they're about to face off against another undefeated squad on the road against NC State. But this game was looking a little bit different for Dash compared to his other games, as he was having a hard time getting things going without showing that he had powers. By the end of the second quarter though, he would help his team get into field goal range twice, and they would now be up 6-3 by the 4th quarter. Where at this point Dash was really beginning to catch his stride, as he was continuously picking up 1st down. He got his team to a 1st down and 10 where they got the ball back to Dash before he snatched these 2 dudes' ankles on his way to the end zone. Dash Parr scores the 1st touchdown of the day, and after helping his team take a 2-possession lead here in the 4th quarter, he has done enough to move Louisville to 5-0 on the year. Dash Parr had an underwhelming game by his standard, but still he went for 144 yards. After the game though, he made sure to give credit to his teammates, and he was not talking about his football teammates, he was really talking about his family, because he knows they've supported him the whole way.
Make it close!
Second play!
Yeah! 10! Yeah!
At this point, Louisville is the 15th ranked team in the nation, and they look like they have a chance to compete for a national championship if they keep this up. In order to do that though, they will have to stay on track and take down another top-ranked team, as they're about to face off against the 21-ranked SMU. Now, it would not be long into this game before Dash Parr was flying into the secondary before stiff-arming this defender. Dash Parr was too fast for this defense, and that's something he would continue to prove here in the second quarter, as on this play he cut back on his defense, and with a couple good blocks he was able to zoom right past everybody for another touchdown. Dash was back in the end zone to help his team take a 14-7 lead, which they would maintain until the 4th quarter, bringing us to a 3rd down and 8 where Louisville had a chance to put this game away, and it was Dash who came up with the catch that moved the chains. Louisville now just needed one more 1st down to end this one, and one more carry from Dash Parr would get it done. Dash picks up another 1st down with SMU having no timeouts, And thanks to another amazing performance from him, Louisville is now 6-0 on the year. They squeaked this one out 14-7 thanks to a 200-yard performance from Dash Parr. He helped take down another top-ranked team in the nation, but even still, he is working extremely hard to get better. Dash wants to become one of the greatest football players of all time, but he knows the only way to do that would be by putting up an all-time great performance. So he's hoping that he can make that happen heading into his next game against Georgia Tech. Early on, Dash is looking pretty good as he was pretty easily coming up with first down carries. He realized that this defense was weak as hell. So the next opportunity he got, he decided that he was gonna take off on this defense. Dash Parr was headed to the crib for the first touchdown of the day. And it seemed like everybody in the crowd had the feeling that this was only just the beginning. Because on the very next drive, backed up on their own 4-yard line, they gave the ball back to Dash, and he just glided past this defense. Georgia Tech had no way of stopping Dash. Even when he slows up and runs across the goal line, he still would score, as he now had his team up 14-0 in the first quarter, but they would have another chance to extend their lead after getting the ball right back off a turnover. Bringing us to a 3rd and 1 where his team got the ball back to Dash, and he just zoomed past the defense again. Dash is only on his 7th carry, and he has over 200 yards with 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. He was having an incredible performance, and it was not going to stop there, because as soon as he touched the ball here in the second quarter, Dash was outrunning this defense again. Dash might be on his way to having a historical performance. He comes up with his 4th touchdown of the day to put him at 299 yards. This kid was absolutely phenomenal, and by the end of the second quarter, he already had over 340 yards rushing. But it looked like he'll have a chance to get some yards as a receiver as he came up with the catch over the top. And Dash Parr was heading back to the end zone for his 5th touchdown. He's already done enough to convince the coaches to sit the starters for the rest of the half, as Louisville was now moving on to 7-0 on the year. They take down Georgia Tech in very convincing fashion, mostly thanks to a 382-yard rushing performance from Dash. He also had 5 touchdowns on the day, and he went on to break multiple records not only for Louisville but also in the ACC. Dash was playing outstanding at this point as he earned himself a National Offensive Player of the Week. And on top of that, he was getting a lot of love from his dad, Mr. Incredible, who let him know that he is proud of how great that he is doing and that he thinks that he could potentially win a Heisman Trophy. So that is definitely something that Dash is going to try and get. He doesn't want to go too crazy because he doesn't want to make it obvious that he's a super, but he's going to do his best to stay locked in heading into his next game against Syracuse. Now this one was not going super well for this offense as they only had 3 points in this game, and their quarterback was throwing a pick here in the 3rd quarter. Luckily, it turns out Syracuse was not able to capitalize on this at all. And Dash knew that with this game getting ready to head into its final quarter, he had to start making some big plays soon. So he decided to move his way to the sideline where there was nobody who was going to catch him as he flew past everyone and scored a touchdown to give his team the lead heading into the 4th quarter. Dash was showing up big for his team when it mattered most, but it turns out that they would need him again because they would get the ball back with the lead and a chance to put this game away with another touchdown. So that's why on this play, Dash decided to go ahead and snatch this dude's ankles before zooming upfield and around his defense for another touchdown on the day. Dash Parr just gave his team a 2-possession lead here in the 4th quarter. And it's looking like he just helped his team escape with another victory on the season. Dash went on to rush for over 200 yards again and earned himself another Offensive Player of the Week. He was absolutely on a roll heading into the back half of the season as it was clear that he was unstoppable. There was no other player in the country who was able to catch up to Dash, and even when they had him dead to rights, he still would find a way to get out of it like he did here against Stanford. He was embarrassing his opponents on a weekly basis, and unfortunately in this game it was definitely Stanford's turn as they could not stop him from getting to the end zone. He ended up going for his 3rd score of the day, doing enough to get his team their 9th win of the season. Louisville was continuing their dominance throughout the ACC, and Dash Parr was undoubtedly the biggest reason why. Rightfully so, he was getting a lot of attention from around the country, as he was being recognized as one of the top backs in the nation, and it seems like every single week he would continue to prove why, as he came out here and absolutely torched this UNC defense. He was an absolute problem for the Tar Heels, and he even had his team in position to put this game away with the field goal, but he decided to take matters into his own hands as he took this ball to the crib for another touchdown. He got his team the lead with less than 15 seconds left, doing enough to keep them undefeated on the year. Dash Parr continued to show week in and week out just how great he could really be, as at this point he already has over 1,700 rushing yards on the season. Still though, he has a couple more games on the schedule to add a little bit more to that total, but heading into his next game against Pittsburgh, Dash decided that he was not going to go too crazy. He only had 50 yards rushing by the end of the fourth quarter where he finally decided to break out, but even then he still chose not to take it to the crib for a long touchdown. He did just enough to help his team get in the end zone for a score, but with 1 minute left, Pittsburgh found a way to send it into overtime, where luckily they only scored 3 points on their opening drive, so Dash decided to take it upon himself to score a touchdown and put this game away. Louisville is now 11-0 and the third-ranked team in the nation. They were just running through their entire schedule, and their next game against Kentucky would be no different, because Dash Parr was making plays like on this 3rd down and 20 where he somehow found his way to the end zone for a touchdown. He came up huge for his team when they needed it most to help put this game away. The Cardinals end the regular season undefeated with a 12-0 record. They had dominated all throughout the year, and it's safe to say that the coaches were really happy with Dash, because he pretty much already helped them solidify a spot in the college football playoffs. But before they can get there, Dash is about to head into the biggest game of his season so far, because with an undefeated record, Louisville is now in the ACC Championship, where they will now have a chance to secure a bye week, and all they'll have to do is just take down the Miami Hurricanes. But things are looking real good early on for Louisville as Dash picks up a big first down on his first carry. He already feels like he could have a big game, so that's why on his next carry he decided to say hey and break free to the outside, where there was nobody in front of him as he was on his way to the end zone for an 84-yard touchdown. Dash Parr goes the distance on his second carry of the day. He's got his team going with a little momentum early, but it turns out that this one will be tied at 7-7 in the third quarter. And for one of the first times all year, it seems like Dash is actually not going to have to make a big play to help his team get downfield. His squad is stepping up here in the ACC Championship as they get to the 11-yard line, where they give the ball right back to Dash, and he would fry these defenders for another touchdown. Oh, nah, that boy Dash did them crazy. Regardless, he got his team with a 14-7 lead, which they would maintain after getting the ball back. Where now at the goal line, they have a chance to extend their lead even further, which they do after another Dash touchdown. He's got his team with a 2-possession lead in the ACC Championship. All they gotta do is just see if they can maintain their lead, which they can until the fourth quarter, as it seems like Miami's offense is not able to get much going, which means that for the first time in program history, Louisville will be winning their first ever ACC championship. They get the job done 21-7, and Dash Parr leads the way with over 200 total yards of offense. He had a phenomenal day to help make history for the program. But it turns out that that would not be the only history that he would help make, because he would go on to help his coach earn Coach of the Year after having an undefeated record through the ACC Championship. But on top of that, Dash Parr would go on to be recognized as the best player in the country. He earns himself not only the Walter Camp, but the Sean Alexander and the Maxwell Award, along with the Heisman Trophy, the first one for this program since Lamar Jackson won it when he was in college. And I definitely think that he's earned it after going for over 2,000 yards on the season. Dash Parr was easily the best player in all of college football, as he not only got a lot of awards to show for it, but he also got a ton of attention too. Soon though, Dash knew that he would have an opportunity to take his team to new heights. They had a chance to compete for a national championship, but the only way to get there would be by winning in the first round of the playoffs, where they now will actually have to head into a rematch against the same team they just played, the Miami Hurricanes. Now this one was starting a little bit different than their first matchup together, as Dash was getting stopped all throughout this first half. He had no way to take off on his defense without exposing his powers, but that would eventually change here in the second quarter on a 2nd down and 7, where he snatched these dudes' ankles and huss, Dash is gone. He gets to the crib for his first touchdown of the day to tie this one up at 7, bringing us to the third quarter where Dash was absolutely locked in. He came out here and was saying hey to defenders and continuously picked up first downs. For some reason though, the coaches actually decided to take him out for the rest of the quarter, but luckily the Louisville offense was still able to put up a touchdown, bringing us to the fourth quarter where Louisville is now a couple first downs away from winning this game. All they have to do is just chew out the rest of this clock, but it looks like Dash has a different idea. He absolutely fries this man's ankles before breaking loose, and now there is nobody who's going to catch him as he's on his way to the end zone for another touchdown. Dash Parr got his team with a 2-possession lead here in the fourth quarter, where it looks like the Cardinals have done enough to get themselves to the next round of the playoffs. They take down Miami 21-7 in the Orange Bowl, and it's clear that Dash was the main reason for the win as he earns himself a National Offensive Player of the Week. He's got his team in the next round of the playoffs where they are one game away from making the national championship. They have a chance to make even more history for the program. All they have to do at this point is just head into their next game where they will be faced off against fake-ass Patrick Mahomes in Nebraska. Now this game was stuck at 0 throughout the majority of the first quarter. It wouldn't be till a 3rd down and 10 with around 7 seconds left in the quarter where Dash decided that he was going to zoom into the secondary and take off. This kid is in the end zone for a touchdown that gives his team a 7-0 lead to start this game. And they would maintain their lead 7-3 by the second quarter. And Dash did a great job getting around their edge before obliterating this dude's ankles, before finding a way to break off a tackle and snatching another dude's ankles too. Dash Parr was a problem for this Nebraska defense, but not that big of a problem as they stopped him on a 3rd down before the quarter ended. By the second half, this game was now tied up at 10, but Dash would take advantage of the opportunity to fry up his opponent, and all of a sudden he is out of there. Dash is on his way to the crib for a touchdown that gives his team a 7-point lead, but they'll have a chance to extend it after getting the ball right back after a turnover. Dash takes another handoff around the edge to put his team up by 14 points in the second half. A lead in which they would maintain until the 4th quarter, but once again this team is giving the ball right back to Dash and he was making something happen with another touchdown. The Louisville Cardinals are up 3 possessions in the 4th quarter. They have complete control of this game at this point, and it's looking like for the first time in program history, they are headed to the national championship. They take down Nebraska 31-17, and Dash Parr was the biggest reason why. He had over 200 yards on the day and multiple touchdowns that continuously extended the lead for his team. Dash had worked extremely hard all season despite the fact that he already has powers, because he knew that everything could come down to a game like this. This was the moment that Dash had been waiting for his entire life. He was a star player for a sports team with a chance to win a championship. The only thing standing in his way from winning it all at this point is a matchup against a top-ranked team in the nation, as Louisville will now be tasked to take down the Oregon Ducks. Early on in this game, this Oregon defense seemed locked in as they got multiple stops on Dash. They were not letting him pick up many yards at all throughout this first quarter. But at some point, Dash realized that he was just going to have to be better. So that's why on the 2nd down and 7, after taking his handoff, he would zoom upfield, where one block would spring him loose and he was gone. Dash Parr was running across the goal line for a touchdown that got his team a 7-0 lead in the first quarter. He thought it was crazy that he was doing this against one of the best teams in the country, but soon it would be clear that Oregon was not messing around. They not only tied this game up at 7 apiece, but they also started to make some pretty big plays on defense. They held Louisville to a 3rd down and 5, where the Cardinals knew that all they had to do was just hand the ball off to Dash, where not only would he pick up the 1st down, but it looked like he was up out of there. This kid was going so fast that he even had to slow down to let them catch up so it don't look suspicious. Either way, Dash got his team with a 14-7 lead by the end of the 2nd quarter, where with only a few seconds remaining, it was Dash again who came up with the catch to get his team into field goal range. They now had a 17-14 lead by the time they got the ball back, and they knew that the way Dash had been running all over this defense, they could not take the ball away from him. So Dash got the ball back in his hands and he was just gliding past this defense. The Ducks were not able to stop Dash from cruising down the sideline and then across the goal line, as he was just taunting them on his way to the end zone for another touchdown. This kid was destroying this Duck defense. Unfortunately though, that Duck offense was playing pretty well, as they got this one back to a 3-point game, and now Louisville was going to have to find a way to get back downfield for another score. They ended up getting pushed to a 3rd down and 8, where after this ball was snapped, Dash was calling for the ball, but it went to the other side of the field, but it turns out that it was caught for a big reception. Dash watches as his teammate comes up with a clutch play to move them into scoring range, bringing us to a 2nd down and goal where Dash knows that he has the chance to put this game away. He has a chance to make his entire family proud. All he had to do was just help his team score. So on this play, they handed the ball off to Dash, where he got a couple great blocks and got into the end zone for a touchdown. Dash Parr got his team with a 2-possession lead at the end of the 4th quarter. And at this point, thanks to another incredible performance, it looks like Dash just helped the Louisville Cardinals win their first ever national championship. Louisville takes down the Oregon Ducks to win their first ever championship in program history. They had dominated all season long after landing one of the top backs in the nation, as Dash Parr had been instrumental to this team's success all season long. He had cemented his legacy after a phenomenal season, and by the end of it, he led his team to the top of the college football world. Now, as far as the season stats, Dash Parr would go for over 2,700 yards with 34 touchdowns. He was beyond phenomenal, as he pretty much won every single award you can possibly earn in a single season. Everything from a dog walker to a Heisman Trophy to a national championship. On top of that, Dash would establish himself as one of the best players in Louisville history, breaking multiple records not only for the program but also on a national level, as he now was the all-time leader in rushing yards in a season. Ultimately though, Dash felt like if he was going to use his powers, he might as well help teams that really need him. And since Louisville had just won a national championship, he feels like he might have to enter the transfer portal, where there were a ton of programs that have never had any success, and he feels like he could be the guy to help them out. He was going to have a lot of options heading into the offseason and a very big decision to make, but I'll leave that decision up to you guys. If you want to see a part 2 of Dash Parr in College Football 26, be sure to get this video to 1,000 likes and subscribe to the channel down below. Also be sure to comment down below what else you guys want to see next, and YouTube thinks you'll like one of these other videos until the next one comes out. If you got to this point, just know that I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. I hope you all have a great weekend, and other than that, I'm gonna catch you guys next time.